The space station was alive with noise and light. Shops were open. Traders shouted their prices. Strange smells floated in the air, and hundreds of species moved through the market square. Among them walked a human, a young worker named Daniel. Was just another face in the crowd, wearing his gray work uniform, carrying a box of supplies for his boss. His job was simple, not important, but it paid for food and a place to sleep, and Daniel was grateful, at least until this day. As Daniel walked through the market, he noticed something strange. An old alien lady, her skin pale blue and wrinkled like folded cloth, tried to cross the busy path. She leaned on a cane, her steps slow. Crowds rushed past her without care, pushing and shoving. Then it happened. Her foot slipped, her cane fell, and the old alien collapsed onto the hard floor. The noise of the market continued, but no one stopped. Some glanced, then turned away. Others even stepped over her as if she was trash. Daniel froze, his heart pulling him forward. Without thinking, he dropped his box and ran to her side. "Are you hurt?" he asked, though he did not even know if she understood his language. He lifted her gently, his arms under her thin frame. The alien lady's eyes opened slowly, filled with pain and fear. But when she saw him, something else appeared. Something like relief. Her lips trembled as she whispered a word, but it was too soft to hear. Daniel gave her cane back and helped her to stand. She leaned against him, weak and shaking. For a moment, it felt simple. Just kindness, just one person helping another, but in the crowd someone shouted. A man in a dark coat pointed, his voice sharp. "Human, step away from her." The market froze. Daniel looked up, confused. His boss, Mr. Crawl, pushed through the people, his green-scaled face twisted in anger. Daniel blinked. She fell. She needed help. But Crawl grabbed his arm and yanked him. "Away from the alien lady." "You touched her," Crawl hissed. "Do you know what you have done?" The old alien lady was silent now, her eyes watching Daniel, her breathing heavy, her hand clutching the cane tight. Crawl turned to the others, shouting, "This human broke the rules. He touched a highborn elder without permission." Whispers spread like fire. Daniel's heart pounded. He had no idea what rule he had broken. He only saw a person in need. But now the crowd looked at him with cold eyes, some disgusted, some afraid. It felt as if the ground had been pulled from under him. Crawl raised his voice. "You are fired, Daniel." The word slammed into him like a stone. Fired, right there in the middle of the market. His box of supplies lay on the ground. The contents spilled. People stared. Shaking their heads, no one defended him. No one spoke for him. Daniel felt his chest burn with shame. He wanted to argue, but the weight of so many eyes crushed his voice. Crawl shoved him hard. "Get out, human! You are finished here." Daniel stumbled back, his fists clenched. He wanted to shout, to scream, to fight, but what would it change? He had no power, no status, no friends in this place, only his heart. And that heart had betrayed him, because kindness had cost him everything. The old alien lady slowly raised her head. Her eyes glowed faintly, like a fading star. She leaned close. As she passed by him, her voice low. "You have been seen," she whispered. No one else seemed to hear, only Daniel. Her words pressed into his mind like a secret fire. Before he could answer, she turned and melted back into the crowd. Her cane tapped against the stone floor, echoing until she was gone. Daniel stood there, alone, the crowd dispersing, his boss already gone, his job stripped away, his stomach twisted, his hands shaking. He had nothing now, no money, no future, no place, all because he helped. He sank down on a bench at the edge of the square. The noise of the market swirled around him, but inside he felt only silence. Her words repeated in his mind. "You have been seen." What did that mean? Why had she spoken? Like that? Daniel rubbed his face, trying to push the thought away, but it stayed, like a shadow that refused to leave. He stared at the ground, lost and broken, unaware that his life had just been pulled into something far greater, fired for helping, yet chosen for something more, and fate was already moving, waiting for him to take the first step. Daniel sat alone at the edge of the station's lower levels. He had wandered for hours after being fired, his steps heavy, his thoughts darker than the tunnels around him. Every door he knocked on had been closed. Every alien trader shook their head saying no humans, no jobs, no chances. It was as if the whole station had already forgotten him. He was no one, less than no one. And still, her voice whispered in his head, "You have been seen." Daniel rubbed his eyes, tired and angry. He wished he had never stopped to help. What had it given him? Shame, hunger, and an empty future. He leaned back against the cold metal wall, trying to push the memory away. That was when he felt it. Something sharp pressed against his leg, inside his pocket. He frowned and reached in, pulling out a small round object. It was not his. It was smooth and glowing faintly with a silver light. The object looked like a coin, but no coin Daniel had ever seen. Its surface shimmered as if tiny stars lived inside it. He turned it over in his hand, and strange symbols shifted across its surface like liquid writing. He had no idea what language it was, but he felt the symbols staring back at him. A small part of him wanted to throw it away, but another part, deeper inside, told him to hold it, to keep it close. So he did. As his fingers pressed the coin, the glow became brighter. Suddenly, a beam of light shot upward from the coin. It formed into a moving image. Daniel gasped as he saw it, a star map spinning in the air above his palm. Stars shifted, planets glowed, lines connected systems he did not know. It was beautiful, terrifying, impossible. Then it vanished, folding back into the coin as if it had never happened. Daniel's breath shook. He looked around, making sure no one had seen, but in the shadows at the end of the street, two shapes moved. Tall, thin aliens with glowing red eyes watched him. One whispered to the other, their voices sharp. "He has the key." Daniel's stomach turned cold. He had no idea what they meant, but he knew one thing. They were watching him, and now he was in danger. He shoved the coin back into his pocket and stood quickly, trying to look normal, trying to act calm, but his heart raced like a drum. He walked fast, then faster, until his steps became a run. The aliens followed, their shadows stretching long across the walls. Daniel darted into a narrow side street, his breath heavy. He could hear them behind him, moving closer. The coin pulsed in his pocket, warm, alive, almost as if it knew. He reached a dead end, a wall of steel blocking his way. Panic rose in his chest. The footsteps grew louder, closer. He pulled the coin out again, his hands shaking. "What are you?" he whispered. The coin glowed brightly, and suddenly a shield of light spread out in front of him, a clear barrier crackling with energy. The two aliens arrived, their eyes narrowing. They hissed in anger, throwing sharp blades of energy at him, but the shield absorbed it all, sparks flying in the air. Daniel stared in shock. The coin had saved him. The aliens tried again, but the shield did not break. One growled, "It is true, the human carries it." The other snarled, "Then he must not escape." Daniel's body screamed for him to run, and he did. The shield faded, but the path behind him was now blocked by falling debris. He fled deeper into the station's underbelly, through pipes and tunnels he had never seen before. The aliens shouted behind him, but their voices grew faint as he slipped away. Finally, he collapsed in an abandoned corridor, gasping for air. His whole body shook, his chest burning. He pulled out the coin again, staring at it with wild eyes. "What do you want from me?" he whispered. But the coin gave no answer. It only glowed softly, steady, like a heartbeat. And Daniel realized something frightening. This was not an accident. The alien lady had given him this on purpose. She had chosen him, and now strangers hunted him because of it. Daniel pressed the coin to his chest. He thought of her words again. "You have been seen." Maybe it was not just kindness. Maybe it was something larger. But what? He shook his head, trying to stop the fear. He was only a human, weak, unwanted, alone. He did not belong in wars or prophecies. And yet, the coin was in his hand. The star map burned in his mind, and the hunters were already searching for him. Daniel closed his eyes. He had lost his job, his safety, his life as he knew it. But he had gained something else, something far more dangerous, he whispered to himself, voice trembling. "My life is over. Or maybe it is only beginning." And in the shadows, unseen, more eyes watched him, waiting, planning, whispering. The human had been chosen, and the storm was coming. The space station never slept. Lights flickered, machines hummed, voices echoed from every corner. But for Daniel, the sounds were not comfort. They were alarms. Every footstep behind him felt like a hunter. Every shadow looked like a trap. He had seen the glowing eyes of those who followed him. He knew they would not stop. They wanted the strange coin and maybe his life too. Daniel moved quickly through the narrow tunnels. He passed broken machines, leaking pipes, and old posters. Peeling from the walls, this part of the station was forgotten. A maze where the poor and desperate lived. But even here he could feel the hunters close. He could almost hear their whispers. The human has the key. Their words crawled inside his mind, making his skin crawl. He wanted to throw the coin away. He wanted to be free from it. But when he pulled it out, the glow touched his face, soft and steady. It was like a heart beating in his hand. He could not let it go. It was part of him now. And he knew deep inside that if the hunters got it, something terrible would happen. A sudden noise made him freeze. Footsteps, heavy and fast, echoing through the metal halls. He turned and saw them. The two tall aliens from before, their eyes glowing. Red, their long hands gripping sharp weapons, they hissed as they ran, their voices cutting through the air. Stop the human. Daniel's chest tightened. He ran, his legs moving before his mind could think. He darted left, then right, downstairs. Through narrow passages, the station blurred around him. His breath burned. His legs ached, but fear pushed him faster. The hunters were close, too close. He felt the heat of their weapons as they slashed the air behind him. A beam of light struck the wall near his head, sending sparks flying. He stumbled, but kept going. His heart screaming in his chest, Daniel turned a corner and crashed into a group of workers carrying crates. They shouted in anger as he pushed past. One dropped his load, the crate smashing on the floor. Strange, glowing fruit rolling everywhere. Daniel slipped but caught himself. Behind him, the hunters crushed the fruit under their boots. Never slowing, the workers screamed and scattered. The chase had turned the quiet tunnel into chaos. Daniel's mind raced. He needed to hide. He needed to survive. Ahead he saw an open cargo container, its doors half closed, shadows deep inside. He dived in, pulling the doors shut just as the hunters turned the corner. Darkness wrapped around him. His breath shook, sweat dripping down his face. Through a crack, he saw them stop, their heads turning side to side, sniffing the air like beasts. He is close, one hissed. He cannot hide for long, the other answered. Daniel pressed his hand against the coin. It glowed faintly, too faint to reveal him, but enough to remind him it was alive. Minutes passed like hours. Finally, the hunters moved on. Their footsteps fading into the distance, Daniel slumped against the cold wall of the container. For a moment he thought he was safe, but the coin pulsed, harder this time. It projected a brief flicker of the star map again, just for a heartbeat. And Daniel realized something. The hunters had not left because they gave up. They had left because they knew where he was going. The map was guiding not only him, but also them, and soon more would come. Fear turned to anger. Daniel clenched his fist around the coin. Why me? He whispered, his voice breaking. I am just a worker. I am nothing. But deep inside he remembered the old alien lady, her fragile hand, her glowing eyes, her whisper. You have been seen? He did not understand her words, but he felt them, burning inside him. Maybe he was not nothing. Maybe there was a reason. He pushed the container doors open and stepped back into the tunnels. The station was not safe anymore. He needed to move, to find answers. The coin pulsed again, and this time, Daniel did not resist, he let it guide him. The map flickered in his mind, showing a path through the station. It was pulling him somewhere important. As he followed, the sounds of the hunters returned, louder, sharper. They were not alone now. More shadows joined them, more glowing eyes. The chase was no longer 2 against 1, it was many against 1, and Daniel's only weapon was the strange gift in his hand. He ran again, his breath ragged. The tunnels seemed endless, twisting and stretching forever, but the map in his mind pointed forward, always forward. He could not stop. He would not stop, because Even though fear weighed heavy, a spark of something new had started to grow. A spark of courage, the kind of courage that came when a person had already lost everything, and so the chase continued. Through light and shadow, through noise and silence, the human ran, and the hunters followed, but neither knew that destiny itself was already waiting at the end of the path. Daniel's legs felt like fire, but he kept running. The tunnels twisted like a maze, each corner darker than the last. Behind him, the hunters' voices echoed, sharp and cruel. They were closer, many now, not just two. Their weapons hissed with energy, lighting the shadows red. He had no plan, only fear, and the strange coin burning in his hand. At last he stumbled into a wide hall. It was empty, silent. The floor cracked, the lights broken. Old machines stood like ghosts in the corners, covered in dust. Daniel leaned against the wall, gasping for air. His heart thudded like a hammer. He knew he could not keep running forever. Sooner or later, the hunters would catch him, and then the coin would be theirs. The coin pulsed again, harder this time. The light spread from his palm across the floor. Shapes formed, lines and circles, symbols, glowing bright. Daniel froze, his breath catching. It was the same language he had seen before on the coin's surface, but now it filled the hall like a living map. The light rose, shimmering, and then she appeared. The old alien lady stepped from the glow. Her cane tapped softly against the ground. But her back was straight, her eyes strong. She did not look weak. Anymore, she looked ancient, yes, but powerful. Like a flame hidden inside stone, Daniel's eyes widened, his voice cracked. "You how?" She raised a hand to silence him. Her voice was clear now, deep and calm. "You helped me when all others turned away." Her eyes glowed brighter as she spoke. "For that, you have been seen." Daniel shook his head, still trembling. "I lost everything. I was fired. I was hunted. Why me?" The lady stepped closer, her gaze never leaving his. "You carry what they fear, what they desire," she said. She pointed to the coin in his hand. "That is no simple object, human. It is a key. An ancient key, one that opens doors even time has tried to close." Daniel stared at it, his fingers tight. "A key? To what?" Her eyes softened, but her words were heavy. "To a truth older than this station, older than their empires, older even than the stars you see." She touched his chest gently. "And only a human can hold it without losing themselves." Daniel blinked, confusion and disbelief mixing. "Why me? I am nothing, just a worker." The lady smiled faintly, her wrinkles deepening. "You are not nothing, you are choice, you are kindness, you are proof that humans are more than dust in the market." Before Daniel could speak, a noise cut through. The hall, the hunters, their footsteps loud and fast, the old lady's eyes narrowed. "They have found us." Daniel's stomach twisted, fear rising again. "What do we do?" The lady lifted her cane, and with a single strike on the floor, the light symbols blazed bright. The whole hall shook, as if alive. The hunters rushed in, their red eyes gleaming, weapons raised. But when they tried to cross the glowing floor, they stumbled. The symbols pushed them back with invisible force. They hissed and shouted, striking the barrier. But it held. Daniel watched in awe. The old lady stood tall, her cane like a staff of power. Her voice rang out, echoing through the hall. "You will not take him, not today." The hunters snarled, retreating for now. But Daniel knew they would return, stronger, more prepared. He turned to her, desperate. "What do they want from me? What is this key really for?" She looked at him, her eyes glowing with sorrow. "They want control. They want to end what they fear. But the key is not theirs to hold." Daniel stepped back, his voice shaking. "And me? What am I supposed to do?" The old lady studied him for a long moment. Then she spoke slowly, each word heavy. "You must choose, Daniel. Run and hide, and the hunters will spread until nothing is left, or stand and follow the path the key shows. You, the path that will lead to truth, to war, and maybe to hope." Daniel felt the weight of her words press into his chest. He thought of the market, of being fired, of shame and anger. He thought of her whisper, "You have been seen." Now he began to understand. He looked down at the coin, glowing warm in his hand. The map flickered again in his mind, brighter now, clearer. It showed a place far from the station, hidden and waiting. Daniel's fear mixed with something new. Not courage yet, but a spark of it. He nodded slowly, his voice steady. "I will not run." The old lady's eyes softened again, her lips curving in a faint smile. "Then the path begins," she whispered. Outside the hall, the hunters howled in anger. The sound shook the walls, but inside Daniel stood straighter. He was still afraid, but he was no longer alone. The lady's presence was like a shield, and the key pulsed like a heart in his hand. A beginning, a promise, a danger. And as the lights dimmed around them, Daniel felt the truth. His life was no longer his own. The chase was only the first step. Now came the journey. The return of the old lady had changed everything, and fate itself was watching, waiting, breathing down his neck. The old alien lady led Daniel through the broken halls of the station. Her steps were slow but certain, her cane striking the floor like a drum. Daniel followed close, his eyes darting to the shadows. He knew the hunters were still out there, waiting, but somehow, with her beside him, he felt a little safer. Still, the coin in his hand pulsed, steady and alive, like it wanted him to move faster. They stopped at a sealed door deep in the lowest levels. The metal was rusted, the lock covered in dust. Daniel frowned. No one has used this place in years. The lady touched the lock with her cane, and light spread across it. With a groan, the door slid open, revealing a hidden chamber. Inside, glowing stones lit the walls, showing carvings of stars, circles, and strange creatures. Daniel stepped inside slowly, his breath caught. It felt like walking into a memory older than time. "What is this place?" he whispered. The lady's voice echoed softly. "A temple forgotten by most, built before this station even existed." She looked at the carvings with eyes that seemed to remember. "This is where truth sleeps, waiting for the right hands to wake it." Daniel moved closer to the walls, tracing the shapes with his eyes. Among the symbols, one figure stood clear. A human shape, arms raised, holding a light. Daniel froze, his heart pounding. That looks like me." The old lady nodded slowly. "It is not you, Daniel, but it is what you represent." She tapped the wall with her cane, and the carvings glowed brighter. A long time ago, before humans even reached the stars, the prophets spoke of a day when the galaxy would fall into silence, when empires would rot, when hope would die. She looked at him, her gaze sharp, and they said, in that time, a human hand would carry the flame of hope, a key to unlock what was hidden, a chance to rise again. Daniel shook his head, disbelief heavy in his voice. "That can't be me. I'm not special. I was just a worker. I had nothing." The lady's voice grew firm. "You had kindness. You had courage to help a stranger. When all others turned away, that is what made you seen." Daniel clenched the coin, its glow spreading across his skin. He wanted to argue, but deep down he knew she was right. He had nothing, yet he had still given something. Maybe that was what made him different. The lady stepped to the center of the chamber. She raised her cane, and the floor split open. From the ground rose a pedestal. Ancient and cracked on its surface were 3 circles carved deep. She pointed, "Place the key here." Daniel hesitated, his heart racing. What will happen? "Truth," she whispered. "Truth that cannot be hidden any longer." With shaking hands, Daniel placed the coin in the center circle. The chamber trembled, dust falling from the ceiling. The carvings on the walls flared with light, brighter and brighter. The air hummed with energy. Daniel shielded his eyes, but he could not look away. The coin spun slowly, and from it rose the star map, larger this time, filling the whole chamber. Planets glowed, lines connected, and then a path lit up, a single route through the stars. Daniel's breath caught. It was a map to somewhere important. The old lady's voice was soft but heavy. "That is the path to the origin, the place where the first fire was lit, the place they fear, the place they want to keep hidden." Daniel stared at the glowing map. "And I'm supposed to go there?" She nodded. "Yes, only you can carry the key, only you can open the way." Daniel shook his head, fear rising again. "But the hunters, There are too many. They will kill me. Her eyes softened. Fear is the test. Courage is the answer. Suddenly the chamber shook harder. A booming sound echoed from outside. The hunters had found the door. Daniel's chest tightened, panic clawing at him. "They're here," he whispered. The old lady turned to him, her gaze sharp. "Then the time is shorter than we thought." She pressed the cane into his hand. "You will not walk this path alone, but you must take the first step." The door cracked, red light spilling through as the hunters forced their way in. Daniel grabbed the coin, the cane, his heart racing. The map still glowed, pointing forward, calling. He looked at the lady, his voice breaking. "Why me? Why now?" She gave him the faintest smile. "Because fate does not ask permission, Daniel. It only chooses. And it has chosen you." The door exploded open, the hunters pouring inside with weapons raised. The lady struck the floor with her cane, light bursting, upward to shield them. But the barrier shook under the hunters' attacks. Daniel held the coin tight, the star map burning in his mind. He was afraid. But something inside him was stronger now. Not just fear, but fire. He looked at the path glowing, above, and for the first time, he believed, this was bigger than him. This was destiny. The chamber shook with every strike against the barrier. Daniel held the coin tightly, his knuckles white. The old lady's shield flickered as the hunters attacked again, and again. They were stronger, more desperate, their red eyes burning with rage. Daniel's heart pounded, his body frozen between fear and fire. He knew they could not hold the barrier forever. Then a sudden voice cut through the chaos. "Over here." Daniel turned, shocked to see another figure stepping from the shadows of the chamber. It was an alien. Man short with gray skin and nervous eyes, he raised his hands, showing no weapon. "I can help you escape," he said quickly, his voice shaking. Daniel's chest tightened with hope and doubt. "Who are you?" he demanded. The man glanced at the old lady. "My name does not matter. I am a friend." The old lady's eyes narrowed. She gripped her cane tighter, her voice firm. "You should not be here." But Daniel, desperate, took a step forward. "We have no time if he can help." The barrier shook again, cracks spreading through the light. The hunters roared, their weapons slicing deeper. Daniel looked at the stranger, his fear blinding his judgment. "Please, if you can get us out, do it." The gray-skinned alien nodded quickly. "Follow me," he said, rushing to the far side of the chamber. A hidden passage slid open in the wall, narrow and dark. Daniel grabbed the coin, helped the old lady move, and stepped inside. The hunters screamed behind them, breaking through the barrier as the passage closed. Darkness swallowed them, but Daniel felt relief for a moment. Maybe this stranger truly was a friend. The passage twisted like a snake. Cold air brushed their faces. Daniel struggled to keep up, his arms steadying the old lady. The stranger led them fast, too fast. Something in Daniel's chest began to twist. A whisper of doubt, a shadow of unease, but he pushed it away. They had no choice, no time. Finally, the passage opened into another hall. Dim lights flickered. Machines hummed faintly. The stranger stopped, turning quickly. "You must give me the key now," he said, his voice harder. Daniel froze, his stomach dropping. "What?" The man's eyes glowed faintly red. Not the same as the hunters, but close. Too close. "Give me the coin, human, and I will let you live." Daniel's heart sank. It was a trap. The old lady raised her cane, her voice sharp. "Betrayer." "She spat." The man laughed, his voice echoing coldly. "You old fool, you thought you could hide the key forever, but even you should know. Everyone has a price." His hand reached for Daniel, his fingers long and sharp. Daniel stepped back quickly, clutching the coin to his chest. "You lied," he whispered, his voice shaking. "You used me." The betrayer smiled cruelly. Of course, humans are easy to trick. Desperate for hope, desperate for trust, he lunged forward. The old lady struck the ground with her cane, light flaring, but the betrayer was fast. Twisting past the barrier, his hand struck her side. She gasped, her body trembling as she fell to the ground. Daniel cried out, catching her before she hit the floor. Her eyes dimmed with pain, her voice weak. "Do not let him take it," she whispered, rage Boiled inside Daniel, fear burned into fire. The betrayer stepped closer, his smile wide. "Give it to me, human, or she dies for nothing." Daniel felt his whole body shaking. He wanted to run, but something stronger rose inside him. The coin pulsed harder, brighter. Its light spread up his arm, across his chest. It was alive, and it was answering him. The betrayer's eyes widened. "What? What are you doing?" Daniel stood slowly, his hand glowing with the coin's power. "I don't know," he whispered, his voice deep with fire. "But I won't let you have it." Light exploded from his palm. The air shook, the walls trembled, a blast of energy shot forward, striking the betrayer. He screamed as the light consumed him, his body thrown against the far wall. Smoke rose, the floor cracked, and silence followed. Daniel stood in the middle of the hall, his chest rising and falling. The coin floated above his hand, glowing like a star. The old lady looked up at him with weak eyes, her lips curved faintly. "Even in pain it has awakened," she whispered. Daniel's breath shook, his body trembling with power and fear. "I didn't mean to. I didn't know I could." Her hand touched his arm, her voice soft. "This is only the beginning, Daniel. The key chose you, now it shows its truth." The betrayer groaned, crawling weakly on the floor, but Daniel no longer felt fear. For the first time, he felt something else. Strength, fire, destiny. The coin returned to his palm, its glow fading but steady. He looked down at the old lady, worry twisting his chest. She was hurt. Too hurt, her breathing shallow, her skin pale. "You'll be okay," he said quickly, his voice breaking. "You have to be okay." Her eyes closed for a moment, then opened faintly. "Do not fear for me," she whispered. "Fear only the storm that comes next." Daniel swallowed hard, his heart heavy. The hunters were still out there, and now betrayal had struck from within. He realized the path was not only dangerous, it was filled with lies and traps, and if he was to survive, he could not trust easily again. But one thing was clear. He was no longer running. The key had awakened. The prophecy was alive, and Daniel, once a simple worker, was now something more, something the hunters feared, something the betrayers could not control. He had become the flame in the darkness, and the galaxy would soon feel it. The hall was silent after the blast. Smoke drifted across the broken walls. Glowing cracks marked where the light had struck. The betrayer lay unmoving on the ground, his body weak, his eyes filled with hatred but no more strength. Daniel stood in the center, his hand still trembling from the power that had poured out of him. The coin glowed faintly in his palm, pulsing like a steady heartbeat. But his eyes were not on the betrayer. They were on the old alien lady. She lay against the floor, her breathing shallow, her cane had rolled away, the light inside it fading. Daniel dropped beside her, his chest tight. "You'll be okay, I promise. Just stay with me," he whispered. Her eyes opened slowly, glowing faint but calm. "No, Daniel," she said, her voice weak but steady. "My time has always been short, and this wound has only made it shorter." Daniel shook his head, his voice breaking. "No, I won't let you die. You can't leave me now." Her hand rose, trembling, and touched his cheek. "You were never meant to save me, Daniel," she whispered. "You were meant to carry the fire." Her words sank into him like heavy stones. Tears stung his eyes, his throat tight with grief. "I don't want this fire," he said, his voice shaking. "I never asked for it. I just wanted a simple life. I just wanted to help." The old lady smiled faintly, her lips curling with peace. "And that is why it chose you?" she whispered. "Power belongs not to those who seek it, but to those who act with kindness even when it costs them everything." Her breathing slowed, each word softer than the last. Daniel's tears fell onto her wrinkled hand. "Please don't leave me," he begged. Her last words slipped. Like a quiet breeze, "This was never about me. It was always about you." Her hand fell, her eyes closed, and the light around her faded into silence. Daniel sat frozen, his body heavy with grief. He wanted to scream, but no sound came. The coin pulsed softly in his palm, as if mourning with him. He felt small again, lost and broken, But beneath the grief, something new stirred, a flame that would not go out. Footsteps echoed from behind. The hunters, more of them, their weapons glowing. Daniel rose slowly, his tears still fresh, but his eyes burning. He placed the coin in front of him, its glow spreading through the hall. The hunters shouted, charging forward, but Daniel did not run. Not this time. He lifted his hand, the coin floating above it. Light burst outward, forming a shield that shook the ground. The hunters struck again and again, but the shield did not break. Daniel's voice was calm, almost cold. "You will not take this from me." The coin blazed brighter, and with a wave of his hand, a shock wave of light hurled the hunters back. They screamed as the energy consumed their weapons, tearing them apart. The hall shook as dust fell from the ceiling. When the light faded, silence returned once more. Daniel dropped to his knees, exhausted. The power inside him was heavy, burning, alive. He looked at the coin, its glow steady, the star map flickering in his mind again. He saw the path clearer now, a line of stars pointing outward far beyond the station. The journey had only begun, but he understood something now. This was not about a lost job, not about shame, not even about survival. It was about destiny. He looked, one last time, at the old lady's still form. Grief twisted inside him, but so did strength. Her sacrifice had given him more than life. It had given him purpose. He stood tall, holding the coin close. He whispered to the silence, "I will not fail you. I will not fail her. I will not fail the truth." The betrayer groaned weakly on the floor, his eyes still filled with hate. Daniel glanced at him but did not strike. Instead, he turned away. "I am not like you," he said softly. And with that, he walked forward, following the map glowing inside his mind. The hall behind him lay in ruin. The hunters defeated. The old lady gone. But before him stretched a path written in stars. Daniel stepped into the shadows. Each step heavy but sure. He was no longer just a worker, no longer just a human lost among alien faces. He was the chosen hand, the carrier of the flame. And though he still feared what was ahead, he knew fate had bigger plans. Plans larger than the station, larger than the hunters, larger even than himself. The star map pulsed, brighter, leading him forward, and Daniel, once broken and forgotten, walked into the unknown with fire in his heart. The galaxy did not know it yet, but hope had awakened, and it was human.